Good morning and welcome to the Sports Carnival live from the Trauma Center studios. You know, I was at a Mexican restaurant the other day. I never heard a gentleman tell the waitress, I'm not sure what you're talking about, but if you think an inch is a lotta, I may be the guy you're looking for. Here's your host, Dave Carney.
Wow, coming out firing on a Friday edition of the Sports Carnival. I love this shit, man. I just love the fact that you come up with great intro jokes each and every time. As a matter of fact, Inside Baseball, I'm making a promo of just your jokes today, so make them good.
Okay, I wrote that one 2 nights ago.
I like it.
While eating an enchilada. I thought it was fun.
I like it. Hey, speaking of enchiladas, I posted a picture from a lunch that I had at Fiesta Mexicana, which is a great joint here in La Crosse the other day. I made 8,457 people hungry. As a matter of fact, Jen Bank is checking in this morning, and Jen Bank says, good morning and happy freaking Friday. Jen, you saw that picture as well, and you're like, I would destroy me some of the flautas that you got from Fiesta Mexicana, and I think that you would. It is fantastic. And if an inch is a lot of, Chad, you and I are going to be, we're going to be two of the most in-demand dudes in the entire world.
Yes, absolutely. And I believe, isn't Jen the one that believes that I am Patton Oswalt?
No, that's Lisa Mateo.
Oh, okay, because I'm not Patton Oswalt. I just want to be, just a quick reminder, that's not me. So no, here, we'll take that back off. Okay.
There was a rumor going around online after we posted that little video of you not being Patton Oswalt with confirmation to the affirmative. There was a rumor flying around online that you may actually, in fact, be Zach Galifianakis from The Hangover and Between Two Ferns.
Why is it always chubby, funny white guys that remind? You know what? It used to be Drew Carey because I used to wear glasses. I remember when I was wearing glasses, everybody thought it was Drew Carey, and I was like, "Yeah, that's great, thanks."
Yeah. Well, listen, if you're going to ask me to take over the life of Drew Carey, Zach Galifianakis, or anybody else, not to say that I want to jump into their skin because that's not my deal, but I don't think it would be the worst.
No, it wouldn't be horrible. Actually, you know what? Drew Carey has it pretty good. You're a game show host.
Yes.
And you get all the tail you want, right? And apparently he's into all kinds of weirdness. So that sounds like fun. So, I mean, it could be worse. Making money doing a game show, I'm down.
Listen, when you get a chance to leave Ohio for any stretch of time, because Drew's from Cleveland, right? When you get a chance to leave Ohio for any stretch of time, your worldview, it changes, it opens, it becomes so much more colorful. The palette enriches, and yeah, you tend to get into some weird stuff. Special case checking in this morning. What up, dude? Says, happy freaking Friday, going into a glorious freaking weekend, and let's have some fun. I do want to put this out here. The Badger game tomorrow versus Maryland.
You're going to be there.
I'm going to be there, but it's going to be fucking raining because it started this morning, and there is like 101% chance of rain every moment for the next 2 days. So it's going to be wet, but our Green and Gold insider, Joe DeGuano, myself, Kyle Wood, Woody, and possibly others. We're not sure which of the P1s could be assembling because Joe's left this a bit of a secret. We're going to be doing a tailgate party, though, outside of a Buffalo Wild Wings in downtown Madison. Now, later that night, Chad, the Wood and I, we're going to be going to this thing called a flannel party at a bar called Funk's.
I don't know what that means.
Madison. It's, listen, 4 bands, tons of booze, and a whole bunch of revelry with flannel shirts. So we're going to do that. We're going to stay over in Madison because we're safe and we're responsible adult males. And then we'll come home on Sunday to watch the Green Bay Packers take on the Detroit Lions. Chad, we are loaded with content this morning. We really are. And while Neil says he's a burrito or a chimichanga kind of guy.
Chimichanga. He's a chimichanga fella.
You got to try the flautas at Fiesta Mexicana. They're going to change your world. They really, really will. We got a big show coming up today, Chad. The Bears, come on, man. You're not going to beat the Dolphins. If they do beat the Dolphins, I'll be surprised, Rob Dog. But if the Lions, listen, let me just get this out. If the Lions beat the Packers, Packer Nation, you will do what? Climb this morning's poll at The Sports Carney on Twitter and on our Facebook group page. If the Packers do not beat the Lions, Packer Nation will do what?
I would say freak out. I would say freak out. I think there's going to be a little freak out if this happens.
So the way that you can answer.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
The way that you can answer is nothing. The season is over.
Okay.
You can sulk, drink, and sulk more.
That's probably, yes, number 2.
Or you can turn your attention to the Bucks.
I would see if you want to be healthy, go towards the Bucks. But I have a feeling it's going to be number 2. It's going to be sulk and drink.
Yes.
And I think that is going to happen. I think that there's a good possibility that may happen. I honestly hope that doesn't happen. Because losing to the Lions is worse than death. I mean, that's bad. Not only are you losing in your own divisions, but it's the freaking Lions. You know what I'm saying?
the problem for Packer fans is this, because the Packers have traditionally been so good, and we've seen this over the last, even 4 or 5 years where Aaron's won a couple of MVP trophies. The Packers have been so good. Oftentimes when they've played the Lions, it's been one of those second time around games the Packers tend to lose, or maybe it's the first time they're playing them and they look right past these guys. Detroit can score the football. They can't play defense. They lose TJ Hawkinson, or trade him, I should say, to the Vikings. So Detroit's definitely going to be in a different state. But if the Green Bay Packers, friends, do not win this game, I'm going to be sulking some more, knowing that the season is over, and turning my attention to the Bucs. I should have put all of the above. As a matter of fact, if you're a member of our Facebook group page, and I know that Matty Ice is, go ahead and adjust the poll question on Facebook, because you can add in different kinds of answers. Add in all of the above, because I'll do all of that. Know the season is over, drink, sulk some more. And then I'll go ahead and just turn my attention to the Bucs, who, by the way, have a huge game coming up tonight versus the Minnesota Timberwolves on ESPN, 9 o'clock. And Chad, this Milwaukee Bucks team off to a 7-0 start.
They're going 8-0. Mark it down.
8-0. I love this. They're off to such a great franchise tying start that our friends at Jameson, Absolute Vodka, and the Recovery Room had all decided that it would be pertinent for you to go see a Milwaukee Bucks game in person this year. And coming up on December 7th, the Bucks will be taking on the Raptors. And Chad, every single day that you go to the Recovery Room, and this started yesterday, order a shot or a cocktail with either Absolute or Jameson, and you get an entry slip. I was there for a little bit yesterday, make sure everything was going on, and the entry slips, they're already getting filled up. The bartenders, the waitresses, they're going to push you to Absolute and Jameson so you get yourself in the running. Now, the kicker is going to be on the 30th of November. So at the very end of this month from 6 to 10 p.m., you're going to have for double entries. We're going to have a huge party at the Recovery Room. We'll announce the winner live on the program the following day, the 1st of December. Again, this is going to be a great opportunity for you to get to the Fiserv Forum and check out this year's Milwaukee Bucks team. Chad, we've also got Bob Ibach slated to join the program this morning. Bob's going to attempt to join us from his iPhone. We'll see if that works. Kyrie Irving's getting canceled by the Nets, and boy, we've got a lot of fun Wisco sports stuff to dig into. Stay tuned. We'll be back in about 1 minute here on the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios. What can I say? The Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi Street is not only my favorite bar in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, it's my favorite restaurant in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin. Breakfast served 8 to noon, Saturday and Sundays, daily specials, incredible cocktails, and the best damn wait staff in the entire city. My buddy Matt knows how to treat you right, and that's why when you go to the Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi, you're always going to have a great time and a great meal with a great cocktail. So if you haven't been in a while, or perhaps you're just regular and you want to stop in again, make it a thing. I'm there every single week. How about you?
Hello, this is Professor Fission for Nuke and Nuke Light, the world's first nuclear beer. Brewed and nuked in 1956 and recently found in Warehouse 14. How's it still fresh, you may ask? Well, thanks to our friends at Cesium-137, Stromium-90, and Plutonium-239, these beers will stay fresh for another 90 years. Not only does Nuke and Nuke Light have 10 times the kick, but you're sure to be a hit at the party because it helps your urine glow in the dark.
Nuke and Nuke Light. Pick up a case today before it melts through your grocer's floor. And a Luke Air. Yummy.
Now back to the action live from the Trauma Center studios. This is the Sports Carnival. You know, the whiny umpire doesn't call the ball foul. He calls it not fair. Now here's your host, Dave Carney.
I tell you, one of the greatest things that David Patrick Carney taught me, my father, was to take those old school like dart guns, right? The ones where you'd lick the tops of them and they'd go stick on something, right? The little plastic darts. But to take those little dart guns, lick the tips, and shoot at the umpire on the screen. Now, this, of course, was when televisions weighed like 847 pounds. They were literal pieces of furniture in your home. And so there was no chance of it tipping over. But yeah, David Patrick Carney, very big at taking down the umpires. And you know what I think burnt him the most was the umpires like Leslie Nielsen in Naked Gun that just grandstand to such a large degree. It's like strike, and then they're doing the little dance, and you have a little whoop-de-whoop, and they're out there with their knickers on. It's just get back to the game, man.
Some theatrics. You want some theatrics in your umpiring. I just found it funny that they call it foul, but I did hear somebody. I was watching the game the other day. I don't remember which World Series game it was, and I thought someone said not fair, and so I was like, not fair, because he's a whiny umpire. That's what I came up with.
I like that, a whiny umpire. I think this is, there's all sorts of newisms that are coming up here on the Sports Carnival. We've got, audible ways to identify your quarterback through grunts and sounds and different tones, and now there is the whiny umpire. I think this is this is a movement whose time has come. I like Rob Dog jumping in here this morning because UWL Thomas did beat Matty Ice to the poll question and added that all of the above in. But Rob Dog says, my vote for if the Packers lose to the Lions is laugh and say, welcome to my world. Rob, that is not very nice. But I will say, Rob, when you're a Bears fan and you live in the state of Wisconsin, you're really given no quarter because Packer fans, Wisconsinites, they'll just go deep on you because you're a Bears fan for no other reason than to just get on you for being a Bears fan.
How about Dr. Morningwood? Advice for the day, Jen. Having 6 beers a day is healthier than being dead. Okay.
It's fair.
There's logic there somewhere. Sure.
So here's something I found out last night, as a matter of fact, from Morningwood. While we broadcast live from the Trauma Center studios powered by the Recovery Room, do you know where Morningwood does his morning texting?
In the bathroom?
He does it from the woodshed. Come on, baby. Follow the logic here. He does it from the woodshed. So, Morningwood, I appreciate that. And we'll see how many beers we can consume tomorrow. That'll be something that we'll probably have to test. How many beers can we consume tomorrow? Matty Ice is saying he puts the over-under on points scored by the Packers at 20.5. That's not good. That's not good news.
Well, because the Lions can put up points. They just can't stop anybody. So are we expecting this to be a high-scoring game? Or are we expecting it just to be a mess? What are we thinking here?
The Lions can't stop the run. And if I'm Green Bay, I go back to this.
Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon.
Yes, everything that worked against Buffalo to any degree of success, you need to double down on here. And Aaron Rodgers, this Aaron Rodgers saga, which we've been enveloped in for the last couple of years, has gotten to the point now where people are just tired of talking about it and tired of talking about Rodgers, talking about all the issues not named him, right? Like that's one of the things that Packer fans are just decidedly upset about. All the different times in which Rodgers points his fingers at the different issues and it's health and it's Cobby and it's no, man, it's a holistic approach. Football is not one player. It's not even two players. It's the collection. And I know that next man up, it only works so far. You can't replace an Aaron Rodgers or a all-pro left tackle like David Bakhtiari just by snapping your fingers. That's not going to happen. But you see this across the league every single week, Chad, and you see teams with players that are out, with backup quarterbacks, with new head coaches, with rookie wide receivers. They have to figure it out. They've got to make the adjustments and figure out what it is that they're doing. Listen, I'm no Daniel Jones apologist. Matter of fact, I think that guy's a fucking scrub for the Giants, right? But what Brian Daboll is doing with Daniel Jones is impressive, and you can tell what coaching does. Daniel Jones is not a very good quarterback, but at the same time, he's been put into positions this season where their success has been predicated on the coaching. The Giants have a terrible offensive line, much like the Packers, a running back who hadn't been healthy in years, and they've schemed the whole thing up to basically hide the weaknesses and exploit what the Giants can do well. And if the Packers can't figure that out this weekend versus the Lions, it's over, baby. I mean, it really is. It's over.
Hey, let's check this out. Terry Saltzman, good morning, gentlemen. Made some nice money last night on plus 14 Texans. Nice. Was that a tip from you? Was that a tip from you, Dave?
Well, when we had John Denton on, he said that if he would have made any play, it would have been on the points against the Eagles, because, again, laying 14.5 or 12.5 or whatever it was near the end or right leading up to kickoff is just, it's far too much. You can't give up that many points. And what you saw last night as well was, Davis Mills isn't all that terrible. I mean, he was in 2017 rated the #1 high school recruit going into college. It didn't work out. He's got some mobility. Davis Mills might be okay. I don't think he's going to be a starting quarterback long-term in the NFL, but he looks like he could be a placeholder. He looks like he could be okay. Now, for the Philadelphia Eagles, and Chad, we'll just talk about this briefly because I want to hit some World Series and then talk about what is going on with Kyrie Irving before we maybe talk to Bob Ibach. Dude's calling me on my phone here. It's like, Bob, we're on a show. Like, I can't pick up the phone. We're actually on a show. But what we saw last night from Philadelphia and these Eagles teams was, again, another sign of coaching working and Jalen Hurts playing above what it is that I thought he would be able to actually play like in the NFL. And for Houston, I mean, this is just a mess. That Brandon Cooks guy that we talked about possibly getting traded, he's not even with the team right now. Lovie Smith is hoping he comes back on Friday. He put a tweet up there the other day, Chad, talking about the Houston Texans playing with his career. I don't know what to make of the situation in Houston, but I'm glad that Terry made some money because that was just too many points to have to give up. It really was. Good job, Terry.
Do I need to take this banner off then? Do you think Bob's joining us? Or
I don't know. Listen, Bob's not a spring chicken, okay? And because of that, we're working with different levels of technical expertise. The thing is that I'm not sure how to simplify is you send somebody a link and it's just all you do is click the link and everything else just happens.
Right.
It just happens. But dialing a phone in the middle of an internet radio show, that's not exactly the greatest way to get into the program, right? Like, at least not in my estimation.
Well, you know what? Give him A for effort, though, Dave. Come on, we got to. The silver lining is that at least he's trying, I guess.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, A for effort all the way around. Bob's great, and if we get him on, that'll be fantastic.
Okay.
If we don't, we'll just kind of roll with the punches. We've got a lot to cover, as I've mentioned. Packer poll up on our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney. Packer poll up on our Sports Carnival group page. If you're a member of that group, which keeps expanding, Chad, by the day, I'm so glad to see that. Then please take part in that poll. And thanks to UWL's Thomas for adding in the all of the above option here, because I'm asking you, if the Packers don't beat the Lions, Packer Nation will do what? Neil the Dude is checking in saying, I told somebody last night, Chad, that the problem with Houston, when they were close with a Philadelphia team, they just can't stop anyone. There's no way that train wreck is going to beat an undefeated team. No, that's for sure. But 12 points, 29-17.
Yeah.
Which is a big beat in the NFL. I'm not saying that's not a big beat. 12 points is not 14-16. And you could see Philadelphia at the same time, much like Buffalo did last week in the second half. They completely changed their schematics, right? Once they got that lead, and it was tied 14-14 for a while in the first half. But once they got that lead, they started running the football. And by the way, Miles Sanders, this kid's a stud, man. The Philadelphia Eagles, they're loaded.
They definitely are loaded now. They're 8-0, the only undefeated team in the league. Do you think they're as good as their record, though? I mean, I know that sounds like a weird question, but do you think they're as good as their record? Because if you look at 8-0, you're like, okay, clearly the best team in the NFL. But are they the best team in the NFL? Are they better than Buffalo? Are they better than Kansas City?
Okay, so okay. How about in their conference? Let's put it like this, because we're talking AFC, NFC. Okay. So in conference,
the best NFC team
right now, I would say yes. And I think that when you really look at Philadelphia, and I think the narrative of Nick Sirianni being kind of a tool, and I joked about this guy relentlessly about rock, paper, scissors and how he was not going to work because he basically flubbed that opening press conference. I've been proven extremely wrong about this. If you look at their defensive line, the Eagles have one of the best defensive lines in the entire NFL. The quarterback, Jalen Hurts, is playing a style of quarterback, Chad, that, listen, I mean, he's not showing a drop-off. I was watching this last night on the Amazon Prime View, which allows— By the way,
I checked that out. Awesome.
Isn't it?
It's like Madden. It's like watching Madden. It's beautiful because it has all the arrows and it highlights people and it shows stats and it's really kind of cool.
It is, and it lets you kind of see, in a different detailed view, the way that Jalen Hurts is playing quarterback, how he's making these throws, where he's making them. So I think the quarterback is fine in Jalen Hurts. They can win with this guy. He's on a rookie deal, so everybody else is still like getting paid that should get paid. The offensive line is better. Yeah, I mean, right now the Philadelphia Eagles are the best team in the NFC. If I put them head to head on a neutral field against Buffalo or Kansas City or even Baltimore right now, do I take them? Probably not. But in the NFC, I would.
But overall, in the total NFL, let's go back to that question. You don't necessarily think Buffalo's the best team?
Yes, I do.
I have a tendency to agree. I would say Buffalo or Kansas City could even be better than the Eagles. And obviously, the Eagles are having a great season. I'm not trying to diminish that, but I just don't think that their record is necessarily reflective of how good they actually are.
Well, and here's the only thing that I would say, because I want to hit on what Eric from La Crescent's mentioning here. Boomstick checking in this morning. Here's what I would say. A few years back, we had a Pittsburgh Steelers team, Chad, that went 11-0 to start the season. But everybody, I mean to a man, that I talked to on the program here in lacrosse, or I talked to off air, everybody to a man, to a woman knew that was not an 11-0 football team that was going to do anything. And what we saw at the end of the day was the complete unraveling of Pittsburgh. I don't see that with Philadelphia. The other thing about Philadelphia and why I think they actually are worthy of at least the best place in the NFC is they have held leads of over 10 points in every single game, which means they're putting you away, and they're putting you away for good. I also looked at Jalen Hurts' stats, his advanced stats, which they showed on that Amazon Prime View. When he's getting pressured and he's getting rushed, his completion percentage is almost 80%. So when you do get the rush for Jalen Hurts, he's able to get the ball out quickly. Nick Sirianni is using a lot of the styles of offense that Jalen Hurts was running at Oklahoma. If you saw that last night, running a lot of pistol formation out of the shotgun, a hurry-up offense, a tempoed offense, which works with them. Chad, the Eagles, I know, are not the sexy pick to be 8-0 at this season. A lot of folks thought maybe, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, the Rams, even, somebody like the Chiefs could be that good, or the Broncos. And at the end of the day, we get here to borrow from Joe DeGuano and look at Philadelphia. They're halfway through the season, or at least nearly halfway through the season, and they look great.
The bottom line is they're undefeated. DeGuano would say. At
the end of the day, and the bottom line is, Eric from La Crescent. Let me throw this back over here because we're of course loving our Bucks off to a 7-0 start. Eric from La Crescent says, "Happy Funky Friday, fellas, and yes, we're working on bringing more funk music to the program. Going to watch the Wolves versus Bucks tonight. That's going to be a great game at the Target Center." He says, "Super excited to watch Giannis versus the Twin Towers." I'm excited to watch this too. As a matter of fact, this is a nationally televised spot, Chad, 9 p.m. in the Central Time Zone, so it'll be 7 p.m. for you out west on ESPN. You can get a chance to take a look at Giannis against Karl-Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell. This team, the Minnesota Timberwolves, when I first moved here, was looked at as a team on the rise. They had Jimmy Butler. They had just drafted Karl-Anthony Towns. Tom Thibodeau was still the coach of this team. And in short order, that whole experiment blew up, and the Bucks have won an NBA championship. Wow.
The Bucks versus Timberwolves. This could be a good test for them. This could be one of those. I think they're going to go to 8-0, but this could be a test for them. Obviously, with the Twin Towers, which I love. We're bringing that back from the old Houston Rockets. And I think that's pretty apropos. Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns, both big guys. So that makes sense to me. But I don't necessarily think this isn't a gimme game. And hopefully, they're not looking past the Timberwolves. Timberwolves are for real.
Well, this is not a gimme game under any stretch or any circumstance, excuse me. And if Milwaukee looks past anybody, I'd be surprised. This is why, Chad.
Well, Giannis won't, but.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The rest of this team, though, because they go the way Giannis goes. Brook Lopez talked about that. I don't believe that they look past him. And I know that we gave him, various, shots during the run that the Bucks lost to the Toronto Raptors. Coach Mike Budenholzer, who comes from the Greg Popovich coaching tree, right, was a former Spurs assistant. He doesn't strike me as one of those coaches that would be flippant, especially when you're looking at a team like Minnesota and when you have history in your sights. So if the Bucks win tonight and go 8-0, this will be the best start in their entire franchise history, which includes 2 championships and multiple trips to conference finals. That, to me, says a lot. So I don't think Milwaukee's going to look past it. At the same time, and I know that Eric from La Crescent's in for a great game, this is going to be a tough one. Anthony Edwards, I don't know who guards him on the Bucks. It might be Giannis, but if Giannis is guarding him, well, who guards Karl-Anthony Towns? Rudy Gobert can score, but I'm not worried. Brook Lopez can keep him contained down low. Watching those two guys go back and forth on the defensive end, I'm really excited to see that because Gobert changes the interior of the paint as much as anybody in the league. But what Brook Lopez is doing this year, Chad, I know we've talked about it a lot. It's resurgent. It's Renaissance-like. Brook missed most of last season with a back injury, and I don't know if maybe taking off those months of wear and tear of his body, because he is a big man, 7'2", 250-some pounds. I don't know if taking off those months of wear and tear on his body made him feel more spry now, because this Brook Lopez that I am seeing looks like the most athletic version of Brook Lopez that I've seen since New Jersey, because he was an all-star with the Nets.
Well, the other thing is it seems like he's doubled down or he's focusing more on defense than he ever has, and it's very effective because clearly he is a guy that can cover just about any of the big men out there, and being 7'2" helps a lot. The other guy I think is going to be key tonight will be Jrue Holiday, who's been pretty magnificent this year as well. So, and again, we the caveat is Chris Middleton. no Angles, no Connaughton. I mean, think about that. Think about when those three guys come back, how much better this team is, and they're 7-0 now, possibly going to 8-0. It's nice contrast to the 3-5. I'll just say that.
Yes, it's a very nice contrast to the 3-5. And for the most part right now, as we continue to talk about the Packers, and again, love it if you would take part in this morning's poll question at the Sports Carney on Twitter, our Facebook group page. If the Packers lose to the Lions, Packer Nation will do what? It's really nice to be able to say, well, we've got these struggles with the Packers. We're watching a Bucs team who is playing incredible. And like you've mentioned, even without some of their great players, the Wisconsin Badgers under new coach Jim Leonhard, or interim coach Jim Leonhard, seem to be getting back some of that mojo that Badger teams have had in the past. And then we've got the University of Wisconsin Lacrosse's Eagles football team, Chad, who is going to be hosting River Falls this Saturday, a big-time matchup here in lacrosse. Just 2 games left in the regular season, but a team that's only lost once, and that was by the shortest, and, I want to say the short and curlies, man. It was a very short margin of victory there for Whitewater. So this UW team is almost undefeated and would be the number 1 team in the country. So while we can sulk, drink, and sulk some more as Packer fans, there is still plenty to be really excited about. Badger volleyball. Kyle Wood was so upset that I made fun of them.
They won last night.
Yesterday. Of course they did. They're awesome.
They beat Illinois in straight sets. I watched a little bit of it, jumping between Thursday night football, Major League Baseball, and volleyball. I was all over the place. It was quite refreshing.
Well, this is why the Big Ten Network crushes the SEC Network, because the Big Ten Network is on platforms coast to coast. People think the SEC, because it's got all the great talent in it, is somehow the richest conference. No. Those are southern states. The richest person in every one of those states is the coach of that football team. Like, that's how it is. The richest person in all of those states coaches your football team, ball club. With the Big Ten, ball club. And, this is another thing Chad and I have noticed. By the way, every coach, no matter where they come from.
Yeah, what is the deal?
When they end up becoming D1 coaches or NFL coaches, all of a sudden, boys, we're from South. It's like, I go to Bear Bryant. I got this ball club over here. We're going to get the ball club working. Listen. Those guys are again not in the same league as the Big Ten as far as reach and money. Jim the Haggerty does say, don't forget that Hilltopper football. Jim did go to Onalaska High School, the Hilltoppers, great football team. But I'm surprised, Jim, that you would promote Hilltopper football when your nephew is currently playing for the Holman Vikings. That surprises me just a little bit.
You can have loyalties in 2 camps. It's perfectly fine.
I suppose.
You can do that. Especially when you have somebody related in one of them. You can do that.
Okay, well, ask people in Holman and Onalaska about 6 minutes apart what they think about that. Terry is checking back in with us here, Chad. Terry, by the way, crushed it last night, taking plus 14 on those Houston Texans. Says, I've got 3 underdog picks for Sunday and Monday night. The Falcons money line, plus 134. The Seahawks money line, plus 114. Saints money line, plus 112. Chad, I don't know if you've got a chance. Can you pull up that betting slide that I've got? Because yesterday I made my Dave's Daily Play, which is something that I'm producing every day now. You can watch the little 45, 50-second video on all the different social media feeds at the Sports Carney. I put together a 3-team teaser for this upcoming weekend, Terry. And the way that I put together this teaser was in large part thanks to my friend Rob Mish, who, Chad, you and I know well. Rob was the author of the book Sports Betting for Winners, Tips and Tales from the New World of Sports Betting, which was, in my estimation, his best book. And Rob talked to me about being a teasing fool. And I've teased the Buffalo Bills from minus 12.5 down to minus 5.5. I've teased the Green Bay Packers from minus 3.5 to plus 2.5. And I've taken Arizona, Seattle under 56. So with a 6-point teaser, I got to take away 6 points from both of the lines for Buffalo and Green Bay, add 6 points to the total of that Arizona-Seattle game. And listen, the win, the payout won't be as big. Obviously, it's a teaser, so you're having to pay some of that vig with those points that you're getting. But the point is, and Rob Mish brought this up and was awesome in mentioning it, you just want to win, baby, like Al Davis. I don't care if I win $2.50 off a $5 bet. I have just made 50% profit in a single day.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You're playing on free money anyway, aren't you? Aren't you playing on free money?
Well, no, my free play money is, my free play money was expired. I did use my free play, but check this out. So last year when we became a part of BetUS, which here you go, BetUS, free fucking plug. When we became a part of BetUS, I opened up my account with initial $100, right? Because I wanted to show people how it worked and what you did. Bro, I'm still, I'm rolling from last year. because I'm good and I know which games to pick.
So when you're teasing, how much is it costing you? It's just only costing you on what you get back, not costing you up front, correct?
No, it costs you on what you get back, right? So for this particular play, and
we'll double check that I'm following here. Okay,
we'll just use simple math. In this particular situation, because of the way that I've teased these games, a $5 bet will win me $7.55. So again, I'm going to make a 50% profit on my bet, as opposed to a parlay, which if you hit a 3-team parlay and say you took the money line like Terry put up there, you'd probably be in you'd probably triple your money or more. That's what I did the other night on a 2-team parlay. With the World Series, I took the Phillies on the money line, and I took the Philadelphia. I can't remember who I took now. I'd have to go back and look, but it doesn't matter. I took a 2-team parlay, and it tripled my money.
Bottom line is you're kicking ass, and you're
taking
and that's really all that matters. Is that at the end of the day, as long as you're making some money, that's all that matters.
All right, so while we take this really quick pause, I'm going to check my phone. I've gotten 78 missed phone calls from our 78-year-old friend, Bob Ibach. I'll see what those have to do with anything. And who knows, maybe Bob will join us, maybe not. The official mortgage team of the Sports Carnival is the Midwest Mortgage Team of Land Home Financial, my good buddies Mike Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi. Listen, we all know the mortgage industry is in a bit of an upheaval right now, and that's why it's more important than ever to go to a couple of guys that you can trust, a local operation right here in La Crosse. That is the Midwest Mortgage Team. Again, Michael Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi of Land Home Financial. Don't make a mistake with your mortgage needs. Go to the official mortgage provider of the Sports Carnival, the Midwest Mortgage Team, Mike Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi.
Coming to Fox this fall, it's the Bench Brothers.
Talking about that street clothes and West Brick.
They're getting down on the bench. The Bench Brothers, brought to you by Big Dick's Hoagie Heaven. Remember, ladies, the first 6 inches is free. And by Don Francisco's. At Don Francisco's, if you're up all night, so are we.
Street clothes and West Brick.
They're getting down on the bench.
Now more than ever, if you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps an investment property, you need a full-time dedicated real estate agent who is up to date on all the latest trends and analysis and is ready to give you the kind of service that you deserve. That's why the official real estate agent and the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival is Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate. Whether you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps you are a seasoned investor, call the official real estate agent partner of the Sports Carnival, Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate.
And back to the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios. My current relationship status: made dinner for 2, ate both. Now here's your host, Dave Carney.
Oh, that's just too good, man. That's too
pretty
good.
Normal thing. It's not really about my relationship status. It's more about my appetite, but either way.
Hey, listen, you're a hungry man, which if you're a Swanson's person, they've set you up perfectly, right? Go out and score yourself one of those.
Yeah.
Chad, I want to say a good morning to all of those that are joining us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Twitch, on YouTube, on Podbean Live, and a real thank you to our incredible sponsors here of the program, the Midwest Mortgage Team, Michael Garcia, Todd Vercruzzi of Land Home Financial, Anthony Tony Russo. Yes, exactly. And Brian Sandmeyer of Preferred Insurance, downtown La Crosse. Kyle Cable, One Trust Real Estate, of course, the Recovery Room, who powers the Trauma Center studios from coast to coast. And we've got Joe's Helping Hand Landscaping, and new to the program is the O'Neill Law Firm, attorney Sean O'Neill. Fellas and the associated ladies, with you on this, we really appreciate you. Chad, Bob's not going to be able to join us. So I'm getting video calls on my Facebook Messenger, and
he's confused. He did it before. That's what I don't understand. He joined us before.
Do you remember the commercial that came out years ago? And there was a group of, let's say, Golden Girls in their living room.
Yeah.
And they're trying to kind of explain Facebook. And this lady's got, one of the Golden Girls, a whole bunch of yellow sticky notes.
Yes.
She's like, I'm posting this on my wall. And the other gals are just looking at her like, that's not how this works. It's not how any of this works. That's what we're basically up against here. Now, we love Bob. And listen, just because Bob doesn't get with the current technology doesn't mean that we still don't value his opinion.
Sure.
We still look at Bob as a sage and wise resource for us here on the program. I feel like at some point, I'm going to have to record an audio-only version of Bob using the telephone and then spice it up with a little bit of animation. Maybe we'll use your cartoon animator to make the actual interview with Bob go back and forth.
I think we can make that work, actually, and I think that would be funny.
It would be awesome.
I think people would enjoy that, as a matter of fact. It kind of reminds me of, like, there's this insurance series of commercials for insurance, and I don't remember which. It's like, we want to help you not become your parents.
Yes.
And there's that one where he's talking about, what did he do wrong here? He's like, left the voicemail. Oh, he didn't say his name twice. No, all you had to do was text. 90% of the time, all you have to do is text. You don't have to actually call and leave a voicemail. So kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
I saw that commercial for the first time the day after I left a voicemail, and I left my phone number twice. Because again, I'm thinking of it like it's 1998 and we are still on answering machines. And I'm like, blah, 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 blah. And I leave the phone number twice because, of course, that's what you do, because they can't see that your number was the one that just called. They can't tell. So,
and you left your name too, even though the phone identifies who you are. The phone tells you this is Dave Carney. You don't have to say your name.
So let me ask you, just in a general sense, does that put me in line with, like, am I getting to be that age where I'm like my parents?
Yeah, unfortunately. And it happens to you slowly but surely. And you'll catch yourself, right? And it'll be one of those surreal moments, and you'll say something, or you'll do something, and you're like, oh my God, I'm turning into my parents. Yeah. Happens to me. It happens more as you, the older you get, the more it'll happen. And I'm sure people can join in with this and comment that it happens to them as well. And I know Rob Dog's young. Just wait, buddy. And by the way, gravity wins. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, gravity wins.
Gravity wins every time.
Chad, Rob Dog is already sort of espousing some of his parents' beliefs. He pretends to root for the Mets, which is something that his parents do incorrectly. I know this is the Mets, for reasons that are unaccountable to any of us. Rob Dog, though, is checking in saying, what about the Badgers cross country team? Now, Rob, I tell you, you're digging deep here on me, buddy. This is a little bit outside of my purview. Who has now won their fifth straight Big Ten championship, and will go win the national title again. Fantastic. And listen, the University of Wisconsin and all of its subsidiaries, from UWL to all of the different state schools, they're fantastic. But Rob, when it comes to track and field, there's only so far I'm willing to dig into college. I draw the line sort of at just running.
I was just going to say that my biggest problem with cross country is all you do is run. So when you go to practice, you're running. When you're in competition, you're running. All you're doing is running. Every other sport, you're always asking, do we have to run today?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. Guess what? When you're in cross country, you got to run.
Yeah. So Morning Woods checking in here, the Woody, the Woodinator, and he's saying, I heard that G Bills covers cross country. Yeah. And like all sorts of other shit. I think there was like a segment once on the Wonder Kids, or I don't know. It's a show for children. So good call there, Woody. I like that one. Chad, well, Bob Ibach didn't have the technical wherewithal to join the program this morning. Somebody who has been unable or unwilling to join us in times before, Bailey Cale, former Central star basketball player, reminds a lot of us of Jalen Rose here in the area because of his sweet left-handed touch and passing ability. Now become one of our favorite new musicians. He's actually joining us from Washington, D.C., or at least that's where I think he is joining us from. Bailey Cale, what up, dude?
What's up, man? How you guys doing?
We're doing well. I'm glad you could join us. This is great. This has been what? Third time's the charm, I think is how we say that, right?
3 strikes, you're out, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's the other way to say it. Yeah, 3 strikes and you're out. Bailey, let me just throw this out here. Chad, the producer, has been having a lot of fun mixing in your tunes. We know that you're a basketball player, and I want to get your thoughts here on the NBA, especially with the Bucks and what Johnny's doing with the Wizards right now and a lot of that stuff. But let's just start off with this music thing. At what point did you decide to really dedicate yourself full-time to being a musician and say, my career as an athlete is probably going to need to be put on pause, or at least, for now? When did you decide to make that transition?
I'd say so 2019, 2020, when I was playing ball at UW Whitewater. I had a couple teammates that I grew up playing AAU against that are from the Milwaukee area. And I had my stuff in my room, and I lived with 4 other guys, and our house was always the pregame party house. So everybody would come over, and, they just started to really like show interest in that side of me. And that was probably the first time, like being away from lacrosse and just having people who don't know me like that, like really show love to, the musical part of me, which meant a lot. So I think, and obviously when I came home, COVID, so my mom was an essential worker. So she was like, you can't do nothing. So I was just in my room. And yeah, I'd say that was like the time I started making like stuff that I enjoyed, and it was cool. Looking back though, I think sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I think when you're alone like that, that's sometimes the best times to be creative. When you have no other choice and you're alone, there's nothing else to do, and you want to do something productive. At least for me, that lends itself to being creative, and clearly it has paid off, because I have to tell you, some of these tracks that we've been listening to and using on the show are unbelievable, and I'm impressed with your high register. It's amazing how high you can go. Covering Michael Jackson is almost impossible, and you nail it. Congrats on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that was, that's crazy you said that, because growing up, that was like the reason I was so like insecure. It's because like people that knew I could sing, it was always like, oh, you sound like a girl. Da, da, da. Yeah. Because I remember like 6th grade, I did a solo. We did We Are the World. It was 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And I sang, so the cries for help will not be in vain. But I sang it obviously high. And all the girls, were, oh my God, Bailey can sing. But I had dudes that were like, when's your voice going to drop, man? Like, da, da, da. I'm like, I'm 12. But,
right. Give it some time, guys.
Right.
By the way, it happens at 14. That's when everybody's voice just starts to go down. At 14, I was like walking around the playground. I was getting ready to shoot some hoops, and then all of a sudden, people were like, "Dude, you on the radio or something?" And that's when I figured that we needed to start this whole process off. So, Bailey, let me ask you this, because as you've sort of transitioned through your life, you've gone through a lot of different stages. Obviously, your voice does not sound like a girl's anymore, but it does sound, like Chad said, like somebody who can really stretch those higher registers. What's your ultimate goal with this thing, man? Like, what do you want to do? Because I know you've got a great Spotify channel, and let you plug that too. But what do you want to accomplish here with your music?
I think now, when I first kind of started messing around with it, I think it was the same dream that every kid has, whether it's sports, music, or like acting or anything, just wanting to like have people follow it and have fans. But I think now more, man, like I'm just appreciative of like anybody that listens, and I've realized too, like over time, and just me knowing a lot of people that are, in positions, that, I would hope that I could be in someday. I think that, just even you guys, man, like the fact that you listen and put it on your show and you don't have to, like, sometimes for me, that's almost enough, because I feel like I have accomplished a lot, like throughout my basketball life and things like that. And just being able to touch people and have, kids look up to me, I think that's like the most important thing for me.
Chad, you and I used
Honestly,
to.
I don't really.
Yeah, listen, man, that's, I think, the dream. If you're going to be fair, that's probably the dream for most that are in any sort of a performance art. You want to be able to get people to enjoy what you're doing and uplift them in some way.
Yeah.
Chad and I used to work with a guy that many of you might be familiar with, Al B. Sure. New Jack Swings, Al B. Sure. And I told Bailey, Chad, this. I was going to start pestering Albie again with his music, because Albie's still, very much in the game. He doesn't produce a lot of current records now, but he knows everybody. So I started pestering Albie with this, and my hope is that Albie Sure picks this Bailey Kale song up at some point, and I'm throwing this into the ether. So Albie, I hope you're listening, and gets this guy a chance to break, because much like basketball, Bailey, we were talking about this a couple of weeks back. We were hanging out the recovery room together, man. Basketball and music are in a lot of ways the same, because it's a performance art, meritocracy to a degree. A lot of it's about who you know and how lucky you get. Right. The same with coaches is the same with agents and AR reps from record companies. If you get in the right situation at the right time, and that person or group of people wants to promote you, it can dramatically change everything. So that's going to be the hope here on the show. We're going to keep pumping you up and getting you out there. But let me do this. Let me transition us over to some hoop, because while you're cutting it with this new music, which is great, and I want you to tell us your Spotify before we leave. We're all really looking forward to watching Johnny Davis, a guy that you're good friends with, you're out there with right now, start to really make his mark in the NBA. Tell me, from talking to Johnny, being with Johnny here recently, How's he feeling about the start of the season? The Wizards are competitive right now. This is a competitive team. Kristaps is good. Bradley Beal's good. How's Johnny feeling about that? And where do you see Bailey, Johnny fitting into this team in year one?
Yeah. I think, him and I, we talk a lot, even when I'm back in lacrosse, but the past couple of days that I've been out here, I think just him, kind of realizing, the kid's 20 years old, what I mean? And like tonight he's about to play Brooklyn, and so Kevin Durant is gonna play, and when he was like a young kid and I was around him, like Kevin Durant was like his favorite player. So I think now he's just trying to, switch his mental into like really realizing like, okay, like I made it, I'm here, like this, I am meant to like do this. I think too, he just, once that man gets comfortable, man, it's gonna be scary. So I think, it takes time. I told him too, I'm like, think like your freshman year when you played in high school, like you were nervous. It was different. Didn't take you that long. He made a joke to me yesterday. He's like, man, what did he say? He was something like, we got 74 games left. He's like, I'm gonna figure it out. And I think people just expect like, oh, he made it, so he should be doing this or doing that. When it's like, no, like he, now he's playing with the best of the best, and the fact that he gets to play with a guy like Bradley Beal, I think is gonna show in a couple years. Once Johnny is there more and more comfortable and gets more of a bigger role. But I think too, once he gets out there and starts being more confident, the sky's the limit for him.
Chad, I know that you didn't get a chance to watch Johnny play a ton because he only spent 2 seasons in Wisconsin, and last year was the big breakout as his sophomore year. And Bailey, I'd be curious to get your take on this. The guy that reminds me a little bit of Johnny Davis, especially as Johnny's career is going to be ascending, is Jimmy Butler. Because Johnny and Jimmy remind me a lot of each other in their physical statures. Johnny might be a little bit shorter than Jimmy, but not by much. Jimmy Butler didn't really make an immediate impact offensively. He was a scrappy defender, and then he's, of course, ascended into a great player. But, Bailey, what are your thoughts about that comp there? Because I see a lot of either Jaylen Brown or Jimmy Butler as like two modern NBA players.
Yeah, I think, that's something we've talked about too, because I think, when after Kobe and I graduated, so Johnny and Jordan's sophomore year, they were a really young team, and Jordan had got hurt in football. So a lot of like the scoring and everything was put on Johnny. And same with that Wisconsin, he was kind of like the main guy that was shooting shots. And now, like we've talked, I'm like, bro, now you get to like play basketball. You're not getting doubled every night. You know what I mean? And so now I think he's trying to get back to, the little things that he had to do just to stay on the court when he was a young guy. Like you said, being scrappy, being the hardest worker. He's naturally the most physical guy. Like that man like knows how to use his body always. He's always been like that. So I think I could see that comparison. Honestly, it's tough too, because Johnny, man, like, his size, and it looks like I just got here Wednesday. It looks like he's still growing.
He is.
You know what I mean? So it's just stuff like that.
5 more years, dude. He's going to grow until he's about 25 years old. Listen, Bailey, I want to continue our conversation, but we got to wrap up here. So let's do this. Let's make a plan for when you're back in town. Okay, maybe it's even next week. We get you back on again. Let's talk some basketball. Well, let's talk some more of your music, because we're listening to it now as we go to break. Brother, I appreciate you joining us this morning. Enjoy the game tonight, man. Go Wizards. Huh?
Heck yeah. Oh, you are playing it.
Since I met you, I see more clear.
Preferred Insurance is the official auto, home, business, flood, and life insurance agency of the Sports Carnival, serving folks in La Crosse and surrounding areas with licenses in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. As an independent insurance agency, Preferred Insurance is free to find the very best insurance for you, your family, or your business needs. Call my friends at Preferred Insurance today and set up a free consultation. Remember, working with an independent agency means Preferred Insurance works for you, with you, to find the best solutions at the best prices.
Hey, Hey, it's time for koozies, hot tub, and jacuzzis in downtown La Crosse. Whether you're looking to relax after a hard day's work, or maybe you're up for a little soak and poke, we got you covered. That's right, when you're in the market for a hot tub or jacuzzi, all you have to do is call the Coos. 555-SOAK. That's 555-7625. Soak and poke is a slang term for hot tub sex. Please practice responsibly.
Back to the action live from the Trauma Center studios. This is the one and only Sports Carnival. Joe Theismann once said, nobody in football should be called a genius. A genius is a guy like Norman Einstein. Here's your host, Dave Carney. That's a real quote, by the way.
Oh, geez. I've met Joe. Joe Theismann was doing calls when I was the marketing director in the UFL, and Joe was on, I think it was, whatever it was, Mark Cuban's HD Net, I believe. That's the network that was covering us. And Joe Theismann is not a super tall guy, right? I mean, he really isn't. He's maybe 6'1", 6'2", but Chad, his hands are basically, he shook my hand. It went up to my elbow.
Wow.
So that's how you can tell Joe Theismann played really good NFL quarterback until this guy named Lawrence Taylor decided that was over. And but Joe Theismann had these incredibly big hands. Okay, didn't ask Bailey, and this is a fault on mine, what his Spotify was. And the reason was because we got into a basketball conversation. I'm seeing a lot of folks ask me for Bailey's Spotify. It's simply just Bailey Kale, Bailey Kale, Kale. Look for him. He's a verified artist. Chad, Bailey did tell me when we were hanging out at the recovery room a couple of weeks back that since he started messing with us, right? We started tweeting back and forth and putting stuff on Instagram. He saw his Spotify account go from like 100 up to over 200 within that short amount of time. So what I'm saying is you get the Sports Carney boost. You come on the program, you get the Sports Carney boost.
Yes, and that is for everybody that comes on, just for Bailey.
Absolutely.
No matter what you're plugging, we're going to boost you.
Absolutely. Now, if I boosted you a phone, that might take on a different connotation, right? Because that would be Boost Mobile, and then they would become a new sponsor of the program.
I will say this about Bailey, a very talented kid. This kid puts all of his own music together. He's got a great voice. He obviously has an ear for music. So that's something that you can't really teach. You either have it or you don't. When you're mixing audio and stuff, I mean, I think there's things and tricks you can learn, but some of it's just natural, and he clearly has that, and it's extremely impressive. And kudos to him for putting himself out there. Obviously, he's talented, and I think he'll go as far as he wants to go. It just depends on if he's willing to put in the work, because it's just perseverance now. You just got to keep doing it.
I tend to agree. And Bailey also puts together all of his own music. So not just the singing part of it, but when you think about the production elements that go into actually making the music, Bailey's doing that. And I agree. If Bailey wants to take this thing as far as it can go, I think he will. And I told Bailey this, because being part of a band is great and everybody likes being part of a band, but that shit never works for that long. The single individual artist that hires musicians, that hires people to come in and do their thing is generally the one that lasts longer. And here's the other thing. When you look at Bailey Kale, and I know he was joining us from his phone, this is a good-looking, tall, young man. With a voice like that, he says he can also dance, Chad, which that kind of puts you in that triple threat category. Like Michael Jackson, like Prince, like some of these cats, even maybe, I don't know, Bruno Mars, right? I don't know exactly if Bruno Mars dances, but you get what I'm saying. Those kinds of artists, I think Bailey Kale could be a lot like. And if there's any friends of ours that are still friends of mine that work in radio that want to put Bailey Kale's song on, that would be fantastic too. Again, find him on Spotify. He's an officially verified artist, Bailey Kale.
Does that mean something? Officially verified artist? Is that
know.
Like a blue check mark on Twitter?
It is a blue check mark on Spotify. So I think that it means, hey, I'm not just some garage band that's looking to put together, a couple of cover songs that you should, have us out to your wedding, right? Like that's not what it is from my understanding. So either way, Spotify, Bailey Kale, and thanks to Special K. And it's a travesty for really promoting us to put that out there, because it did kind of, in the conversation, the narrative, it kind of slipped my mind.
Well, speaking of putting things on social media, you got to be careful on what you put up there. Am I correct, Dave? I think that's where we were going. I didn't mean to steal that from you.
You're Chad, the producer, for a reason, and I appreciate you doing this, because we got to talk about this at least briefly. As the Brooklyn Nets, we just heard Bailey Kale talk about it, are playing the Washington Wizards this evening, and Johnny Davis will be going, at least, figuratively, up against Kevin Durant, one of his childhood idols. the Nets will be without Kyrie Irving. The Nets yesterday decided to suspend Kyrie Irving for at least 5 games, Chad, without pay. Quote, they were dismayed by his repeated failure to unequivocally say he has no anti-Semitic beliefs. Irving had, prior to the suspension or a fine being levied, refused to apologize fully and completely, according to the team, for what it was that he posted. About 4 hours after this, Irving did issue an apology. The Nets, Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, said it was too late. Look, Kyrie Irving putting stuff on social media is something that we should be used to by now. I don't know exactly which way to land on this. I don't like Kyrie Irving as a basketball player because I don't think he's dependable. I don't think he plays defense. He doesn't pass. He's a good shooter. Like, that's it. And if it weren't for LeBron James passing him the ball to hit a good shot, Kyrie Irving would be known as a bum and a bust, because every season in which he hasn't played with LeBron, it's not been good. Just not been good. So I just think he's an overrated player. But, you know, watching somebody get canceled for posting something on Twitter, not even actually tweeting about something, but I think sharing something, it caught me by surprise. It did.
Well, the problem I have with it is guilt by association, without getting into the weeds of what it is. And it doesn't matter what it is. If you post something, whatever you post doesn't necessarily mean you fully endorse it 100%. It just means that you posted something, as he said. And I thought he answered it perfectly well, which is, I didn't make the documentary. I didn't make the book. I didn't write the book. I just posted it. That's all I did. So, you know, the road to knowledge doesn't take a straight line, right? You gather information kind of in a crooked way. So however you do that, as you're traveling down that road, trying to garner different information, you're going to come across things that may offend other people. That doesn't mean you endorse it. It just means that you're curious about it and you're looking into it. And I'm not advocating at all of what he posted or didn't post. All I'm saying is, I have a problem with guilt by association. So automatically everything that was supposedly was offensive in this documentary, they're assuming that he is promoting. And from my understanding, from what he has said, that's not the case. Now he has come out and apologized after all of this pressure, which, you know, folding in this manner doesn't necessarily help his situation. In fact, I think it actually hurts his situation, because anybody that would come to his defense about free speech and be able to post whatever you want to post kind of goes out the window once you apologize.
Right. And here's the thing about Kyrie that I actually appreciated a little bit last year, even though I thought he hurt his team dramatically by deciding to not get vaccinated. What I appreciated about Kyrie's stance on this, Chad, was his unwavering belief. He said he was not going to do it no matter what. They couldn't play him at home. He's basically causing the team to go in absolute tumult. He said, this is what I believe, and I'm not going to change that. And the reason that I appreciated that is because here in Wisconsin, we had Aaron Rodgers basically talking out of both sides of his mouth and not having the temerity to withstand the media pressure that says, no, I'm not going to get vaccinated. You can't make me. That's what Kyrie Irving said. And not that I agreed with his position on that, but I appreciated his willingness to put himself out there and say, look, if this is what I'm going to die on the sword for, then I'm going to die on the sword for it, even if I didn't agree with it. Now this, you know, you had mentioned something to me off air about how a manager could potentially handle this. And I think that there were probably other ways to go about handling this without actually making the story bigger. Because, you know, Chad and I were talking this morning, and you mentioned something to me. If the goal was of the Nets and the NBA to not make this documentary be something that is in the general conversation of average Americans, then what you don't do is this, because then that blows up the story to a degree where, you know, NBC Nightly News and Lester Holt are going to talk about this, or ABC News. This becomes a general news story as opposed to a sports story that probably could have been buried. Now, if you're the Brooklyn Nets, and I will just throw this out here too, you might be getting tired of this guy altogether and saying to yourself, look,
and maybe that's what this is about. Yeah.
Juice is not worth the squeeze with this fucking guy, and we're just over it. That's a potential too. And don't forget, Kevin Durant. Well, I'm not saying he's Darth Vader here. Kevin Durant did call for the fire of Steve Nash and the wanting to be traded or getting rid of Kyrie. And
look what's happened.
Yeah, this week Steve Nash has gotten fired and Kyrie's not playing anymore. So, you know, there could be something there.
Yeah, my point to you was, if you want to keep this on the down low because the information that he is posting is so offensive to everybody, you pull him off to the side and you say, hey, Kyrie, the thing you posted could be offensive to certain people. You know what? This is not what this team's about. This is not what the NBA, the league's about. We would really appreciate if you took that down. You do that privately. Hopefully you come to an understanding. You take it down and you move on. But now people that don't even watch basketball are aware of this film and this documentary. And then so you've defeated the whole what your stated purpose is, which is not to get this information out there. So I don't know. I think they shot themselves in the foot if that was their goal.
Yeah, I could also see this being the end, the effectual end. I know that sounds crazy, but he's on the last year of his contract. I could see this being the effectual end of the career of Kyrie Irving. I really could. Guys and gals, this has been a lot of fun. Bailey Kale, according to Special K, needs to make us funky music for Funky Friday. I completely agree. Thanks so much to everybody for joining us. Don't forget, take this morning's poll question on our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney, also on the Facebook group page. Have a fantastic weekend. Stay dry in Wisconsin, Chad. We'll talk again on Monday morning.
See you Monday.